Welcome to the Two Marketing Moms podcast.
Two women with 50 years plus of marketing
Integrity
experience.
and culture are extremely important.
You can still say, I don't know.
Stop multitasking and be present in the
Moms
moment.
have balls, big time.
Welcome to the Two Marketing Moms podcast. We are two women with more than 50 years of marketing and advertising experience between us, and we want to talk about the struggles, the fails, and the wins that we experienced while building our careers, being a boss, juggling work and a home life, and arguably the hardest and yet most fulfilling job, being a mom. This podcast was created for marketing and advertising professionals, especially the up-and-coming marketing stars of the future. We hope these tips, tricks, and advice will help you navigate work and life and get ahead.
I would like to welcome Alan Brown to the Two Marketing Moms podcast. Alan Brown is the founder and chair of DNA, an LGBTQ plus and minority-owned advertising agency based in Seattle, Washington. Today, we're going to talk about LGBTQ plus talent mentorship and support. Alan and I are both members of ICOM, a global independent marketing communications network with 65 advertising agencies around the world. Alan is the North American Regional Director of ICOM, and we've spent time together at annual meetings everywhere from Vancouver to Buffalo. So thanks for chatting with me today, Alan.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Kelly.
Wonderful. So I'd like to start talking about some of your career highlights, what led you to become the founder of DNA, and learn a little bit more about kind of the core of what DNA is all about, which is shaping culture, and then talk about some of the various initiatives that support this for the LGBTQ plus community.
Sure. Well, I think my path to starting DNA was really two things. One is the agency I was working for before I started DNA was acquired. And I felt I don't really want to work for anybody else anymore, and I'm not really sure I'm employable. So I just decided to start my own thing. And over the years, I mean, DNA, it's our 25th year this year, which I'm
Congratulations.
happy to say we've been around for 25 years. Yeah. And we really, our rally cry at DNA is different wins. And what that really means is that we really believe that our differences can make the difference in advertising. And so that's all kinds of diversity, it's racial, ethnic, gender, and cognitive diversity. It really builds, robust teams that really look at problems and can look at problems in a different way.
Oh, I love that. So how do you exemplify that culture in your work, in the agency, other than obviously the obvious things in terms of actually demonstrating diversity within your organization, but how does it work within your creative?
Yeah, I mean, we work with, clients just like anybody else does in financial services and in healthcare and CPG. So we're not a minority or diversity focused agency,
Sure.
But because we're a diverse team and we have this mindset of diversity, it really allows us to look at things from a bit of a different and holistic perspective to consider consumer attitudes and mindsets when we're, trying to sell a product or a service on behalf of our clients. And some of the things that we've done as an agency is, I think it keeps us in tune to the things we want to invest in. So, for example, we were one of the founding agencies with Black BLAC, which is an internship program for African-American students. We developed an AI technology called Project Sugar Free that intercepts sugaring conversations, which, trafficking happens with, minority boys and girls. So we really kind of take that mindset and really try to apply that in places where we can to make a difference in the community.
So let's talk a little bit about some of the basic employment stats that impact members of the LGBTQ plus community. There were some stats that you told me in our last conversation that I think are really unbelievable when you say them out loud, and I'd love to hear a little bit more.
Yeah, well, the thing about being LGBTQ is that most people, when you walk in the room, you wouldn't necessarily know that they're part of the LGBTQ plus community. And so getting good and accurate information, it's all self-identified, it's self-reported, right? So there's that challenge with it. However, Gallup has done, they do a tracking study every year, and the LGBTQ plus population in the US is about 7.2%, and it's holding steady, but that has doubled in the past 10 years. I mean, it's been made this dramatic shift, and the shifts are really happening with younger people. So currently, millennials self-identify at about 11%, and Gen Z identifies at about 20%. So there's a big change in terms of people's willingness and understanding in terms of being able to confidently self-identify as part of that community. And I think some of that has really been a result of the culture being more open and accepting, and just the comfort that they have in being who they are.
That makes a lot of sense. And in terms of like your own personal journey, can you talk a little bit about, your family, the birth of your son, and how that impacted how you wanted to show your face in the world, and how that actually impacted some of the initiatives that you have started at DNA?
Yeah. I will just start off by saying I'm not a trailblazer. I didn't come busting out of the closet and, carrying the flag early on in my career, which I have a little bit of I would say shame about that, but I wish I would have been stronger in my early career. But the reason I didn't, this was 20, 30 years ago, was that I didn't see anybody else in our industry or really in business that was out. And so if you don't have that ability to see someone else or see someone like yourself, it's really challenging to feel comfortable to say, okay, I'm going to be out too, and potentially risk my career.
Yeah.
And so I didn't. And I didn't until when I started my agency, I felt, well, now I own an agency and I can be out as much as possible with my employees. And because I was calling the shots. And so I was a little bit more comfortable there, but I still was not out with clients. And it wasn't until my son was born, and I have two adopted kids, and my son's my oldest, but when he was born, we have great clients, and they're asking, oh, like, tell us about your son, and so tell us about your wife, and kind of how's all this, what are the circumstances here? And I just couldn't lie anymore, I wasn't lying. I just was just lying by omission. I wasn't telling the full story. And so I decided to tell my clients that, I adopted my kids with my partner at the time. And the reception was like, it couldn't have been more welcoming, and it couldn't have been more supportive. And I think it was being at the right place at the right time, and also in a place in my own life and with my own self-confidence that I could do that. And so I really credit him for, bringing me out to my clients and just in the business world.
Wonderful. And so there are a couple of initiatives that you've actually started. Some of them, I believe, in the last couple of years. One of them is called Come Out to Work, and one of them is called Project 47. They're related. Yeah. So can you talk about those?
Yeah. So just a little bit of backup. You asked me about some data. And so Come Out to Work is a project that the agency started a year ago in response to what we wanted to do for Pride Month. And we were looking at some of the data, and we really wanted to kind of connect it to business. And so the data we looked at was that just a little more than half of workers in the US are out at work. So it's almost half and half. Half people are out, half people aren't out. And it's not surprising, because just a few years ago, it was legal to fire someone for being LGBTQ, right? So when the Civil Liberties Act Civil Rights Act was modified to include LGBTQ workers, that changed things quite a bit. We also learned that from data that when you are out at work, people who are out at work are happier, they have more productive careers, they have better relationships with their bosses, things like that. So we thought, what can we do to try to foster a little bit more of that? And so we created Come Out to Work, which was an Instagram social campaign to encourage people to tell their story of coming out at work. And so we collected 1-minute videos, and we shared a video per day over Pride. And it was just an awesome opportunity to share some of the data, some of the statistics, and these personal stories of being out at work. I got tons of feedback from people that, said, hey, I'm not out at work, but it's great to see people that are, and it makes me feel a little bit more comfortable. And so that was the genesis of Come Out to Work.
And then Project 47 is new.
Yeah. So Project 47. So yeah, Pride Month ends, and I always say that, people kind of bust out the rainbow flags for a month, and then once that's over, the party's over and the stuff goes back in the closet, including the people sometimes. And so we were looking at what was happening last summer, and one of the things that happened was the 4As did a diversity study. And they got data from 132 agencies, including large agencies, small agencies, that represented about 40,000 people. So it was a big study, a big quantitative study. But in that study, they asked a lot of questions about diversity. And one of the questions was your sexual orientation. And in this study, the data that was reported is that 0.017% of people in advertising self-identify as LGBTQ plus. So the first the first response is like, something's wrong with the data.
Yeah.
So I talked to the 4As and they said there's nothing wrong with the data. But what we concluded is that, or two things. One is that there's a potential that the cultures don't exist in agencies for people to be out, to feel comfortable to be out. And second of all, probably even a bigger part is that companies weren't collecting that data, right? So if you're not asking people, you don't have the data, you go into a bucket of being non-LGBTQ plus, right? So kind of back to the number, if you look at that 0.017% and extrapolate that to the number of people working in advertising, that would mean that 46 people working in advertising agencies in the US are out, or LGBTQ plus.
Yeah.
So we said, okay, what can we do? And we wanted to do something simple and meaningful and impactful. And so we created the Project 47 Pledge, which we are asking agencies, advertising agencies around the country to agree to mentor one LGBTQ employee for 1 hour per month for 1 year. And our goal was to get 47 agencies that would agree to do that. And if we could do that, we would prove that there are more than 46 people who are out. And so
that's where the 47 came. I didn't realize.
Yeah. It's kind of a long math equation or long division, whatever you want to call it. But anyway, that's where the 47 came into play. And it's shocking. I mean, how many people, one, didn't know about that, didn't understand the problem that, if you're not, asking people their sexual orientation, it kind of sets a tone in your agency, in your company, and really deflates the data. The amazing thing is that this has been a complete, program of referral and picking up the phone and making calls and connections. And we have over 70 agencies who have signed up to be part of the Project 47 Pledge and are mentoring people today.
That's wonderful to hear. And our agency, Williams Whittle, is a part of that as well. So happy
One
to
of the early ones.
happy to support that. So are you going to change the name to increase the number now?
No, we're not. Now, if the 4As, if there's a way to update their survey and they have better data, we will, of course, share that, but we're probably not going to change the name of it. I mean, I would like to get 100 agencies on board this year, but it's, like I said, it's dialing for participants at this point.
And right now it's all about word of mouth. You don't have like a paid campaign or anything to promoting it.
Oh, word of mouth. We have an Instagram site which has come out to work, and we're thanking agencies for joining and things like that. So that's about what we're doing to get people on board.
Fantastic. We'll continue to support that that channel as well. So let's just talk a little bit about what are the actions that employers can take in order to be more inclusive to LGBTQ community.
Yeah, it's pretty. There's some pretty simple things employers can do. And so we kind of bucket it into three buckets. One is to be visible, be equitable, and to be intolerant. And I'll kind of take those one at a time. Mm-hmm. So in terms of being visible, one of the things employers can do is to provide options for employees to self-identify. And so if you're running a company and you offer people that option to self-identify, it tells people in your company that you're an open, safe, inclusive culture, right? So just the act of asking says a lot about the kind of company you are. Yeah. So that's one thing they can do in terms of being visible. The second thing, and I know this can be controversial at times, but using personal pronouns and gender neutral language kind of helps normalize the conversation, and again signals to your entire company, again, you're a safe, open, inclusive, welcoming organization.
And respectful.
Yeah, for sure. And then the third thing is, after the incidents in 2020 and the murder of George Floyd, there was a lot of effort in DE&I and reporting DE&I statistics. And a lot of those statistics really haven't moved much past race, ethnicity, and gender. And so another thing the company can do is to start to collect and report statistics on LGBTQ plus representation in the companies. So, and again, all of these things really set that culture of being open, safe, and inclusive. So that's be visible. So does that that make sense?
Absolutely. And then alternatively, how do you support coworkers and
Yeah.
colleagues to demonstrate that you're supportive?
Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest thing a company can do is to have allies in an organization, people who are there to support their fellow coworkers. And so some of that, so another, part of our bucket is to be equitable. And one of those things is to, really not put all of this work on your LGBTQ plus employees. So, really have allies who are there to share in that journey and to help. Um, you know, Another thing in terms of being equitable and supportive within the company is to really understand and customize or not customize but think through how your health benefits work and how other benefits in your company work, and being respectful of special needs that this group might have or want. So for example, adoption may be one of those. Gender affirming care. Think a parental leave. It isn't only for females and for moms. I mean, there are all kinds of families. So that I think those are a few ways that, coworkers can support their LGBTQ plus coworkers.
I'm going to go off script for a minute and ask you a
Yeah.
little bit about advertising, which is of course what we do. So one of the main things that we always struggle with as an agency for our clients is making sure that we're showing diversity in our advertising, right? And that's
Yep.
diversity in all the ways that we've talked about today. So you have a group, a board in essence that does this. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I think that's really smart and all agencies should do that. In fact, you should probably market yourselves and let other agencies be able to use your board.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool thing. So what we did this year is we set up a DE&I advisory board. And so what we do, and this is a board of experts in the area. And so they really are experts in language representation, cultural appropriation, all the things that many of us can kind of step into, naively and unintentionally, because not everybody can understand everything about every single racial, ethnic, group out there. And also there are lots of generational differences, but these folks really understand this very, very well. And so we started with one of our clients and engaging this advisory board to look at everything we were doing. So from our creative brief, from our scripts that we wrote, from casting, wardrobe, first cuts of our ads if we're doing TV and video. And they gave us great insight. I mean, amazing insight in terms of not only the watch outs, but how to build upon, right? And so how to, because a lot of people kind of feel like DE&I things are about, mitigating problems, and it is, but it's also like, how do you really celebrate and build upon certain groups and cultures in a way that is representative and positive. And so they've been a tremendous asset to us as an agency and to our clients that we're engaging that board with.
Well, I think that's something that every agency should either have or have an opportunity to tap into for advertising campaigns, because we do have that conversation a lot about how does advertising shape culture? What shapes culture? And is advertising a key part of that? And I know you talk about that a lot on your website in terms of culture. Anything else to note about that? And also leading your clients to make sure that they're making those decisions to be on the, you don't want to say cutting edge, but this is normalized and it should be normalized.
It absolutely is. I think, advertising reflects culture, in terms of we do reflect culture, but we do have the opportunity to drive and to impact culture. And I think there are two things that happen in advertising that are big watch outs. One is that if we consider ourselves the target market, which I think happens a lot in advertising, you get young creative teams that are, if they're not very diverse, I mean, they kind of see themselves as a target market and create advertising for themselves.
Yeah.
That's a big watch out. And then the second point is that not all audiences are monolithic. So for example, we have the term LGBTQ plus, right? That's a big, number of letters that we try to kind of lump everybody into, right? But there really couldn't be more of a difference between a gay man, a lesbian woman, a transgender person. I mean, they're very different. And so in thinking about marketing to communities, whatever those communities are, you really have to understand the nuances and the life experiences and the differences among those. So you really have to have your ear to the ground and tap into an understanding who those folks really are and how to best communicate with them.
If people want to learn more, can you talk about a couple of the resources and what the web addresses are or social media channels to learn more about these two initiatives? Come out to work at Project 47.
Yeah, and so it's the same website. It's come out to work with a dash in between the words. So it's come-out-to-work.com. And that's where you'll find information about really how companies can be more open, inclusive, safe work organizations for their employees, and also and there's information there about the Project 47 pledge. And if you're an advertising agency or in the space, you can actually take the pledge. And you'll be recognized on the site, and your logo can go up there, and it'd be a big thank you and shout out to companies who do that.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Alan. I really appreciate you talking about this important subject.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's great seeing you, Kelly.
Take care.